Hello everyone. In this video we're going to look at problem number 11 on set 6.2, which a classmate had asked about. And here we're dealing with the tank and aircraft productions in two countries, country A and country B, for several years as depicted in this table. So here we can see country A data, and then following that there's country B data for various years from 1939 to 1945 for each country. So we're going to use T for this column, so that's going to be our explanatory variable, the tank production for a given year, and A as the response variable for aircraft production. And let's see if we can go ahead and take this data into Statcrunch and generate two scatter plots on the same graph. All right, so to create the scatter plot, all we have to do is go to graph, scatter plot. Now, the nice thing about the display in this manner is that we can group them. So let's go ahead and call this column T, and let's call this column A, and here for the explanatory variable we'll use T, and for the response variable we will use A, and we're going to group them by country. Be careful not to group them by year. And so we go ahead and compute. There they are. So notice that country A is being represented here with blue dots, and country B with red dots. Okay, so as you can see, there's definitely a linear association for both, but a much stronger linear association for country A as opposed to country B, which is more spread out, but it is roughly still possible to categorize it as a linear association as well. So if we put the windows side by side, we'll see that this is a graph that corresponds to this. Remember, country A is represented in this scenario here using the closed circles, and country B using open circles because they wanted to use just black and white, right? So we can see that that's the scatter plot that is the best, the nearest to the one that we obtained. And of course, don't forget that's two scatter plots in the same graph. So is there a linear association or a non-linear association or no association between the two types of production? And as we have seen, both of them do support a linear scenario. So now we're going to go ahead and compute the linear regression coefficient R for both groups, right? Except when we do that, we need to be careful to remember that in this data for the second country, right, country B, there is an outlier, right? Zero production of tanks in the first year under consideration. So we will need to remove that from our set to get a better value for our regression coefficient. So let's go ahead and go back to our Statcrunch. So here, before we do the next calculation for the regression, we're going to go ahead and remove this line from our data. Okay, so it should work just like this, but just to make it prettier, I'll go ahead and move all this up. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and do the regression for both the sets of data. So we need to go to stat, regression, simple linear. We're still going to use t for the explanatory variable and a for the response variable, and we're going to go ahead and once again group them by country, and go ahead and compute. So now let me make this larger. We can see for country A the regression coefficient is 0.97, as we can see here, which is of course showing us a very strong association as we suspected. And for country B, 0.794 if we take out the outlier, right? So which rounds to 0.79 to 2 decimal places. And now the next question, for a given tank production, which country tended to produce more aircrafts? You can tell that very nicely from the graph. Let me bring that up again. So notice for a given t value, the value of A seems to be higher for the red group, right? So in this case, that, as we know, corresponds to country B. So in that case, we get country B. All right, so a very nice problem. It shows us how to plot two different scatter plots on the same graph and do some nice comparisons in that way, which is much harder to quite get done if you have two separate graphs. So that's what's really nice about this method. All right, so stay safe until our next video.